Hi.
Hi.
Wait, can you hear me through this?
Yeah.
louder. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, my name is Michelle. I'm a rising fourth year PhD student at Penn, and I'm gonna stand here. And Pastor Kurt asked me to share a strange fact about myself. So the one I'm supposed to share is that my first job out of high school was making lasers for the Army without knowing how to make lasers. So that's not bad. But yeah, the theme for tonight that I was given was why do I need Jesus in my school life? So I'm going to try to unpack that a little bit, but 1 minute. Oh. Oh. Okay. All right. So, yeah, these are all the notes that I have for this. So I might ramble a lot. You guys just have to be stuck there and listen to this. But I'm going to try to unpack the answer to that question for myself a little bit tonight. So actually, if I'm really honest, my experience of Jesus in the midst of grad school is one that revolves around failure quite a bit. And I think that's actually something that's fundamentally different about grad school. And for those of you who are in PhD, if you have not tasted it already, you will. You're going to fail a lot, and you're going to fail pretty badly sometimes. So, yeah, no, but this is about Jesus in the midst of that, so it's okay, it's good. All right. You know, like, how we respond in the face of that kind of failure, especially when it's sustained for such a long time, is really dependent on like where we are with God in that season. Something that Pastor Young says that I appreciated a little bit when I was an underclassman, but appreciated a lot when I become a YA, is like, you can either get bitter or you can get better. And then like the other side of that is you can get better and then become bitter in the process, which is not good either. And which way you go in that really is determined by how you view God, your relationship with Him, and how you are like in the midst of His people and His community. So, yeah, I'm gonna share one of many stories in which I experienced God's goodness in the midst of my failures, and this particular instance has to do with the fact that I was able to stay in Philly and I was able to be a part of this community and serve here because I received a fellowship from the National Science Foundation when I was a senior in college. So this was actually a totally different story in and of itself. Like, that was like all by grace. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what I applied for. It was completely absurd. But I came into grad school thinking like, okay, like this is definitely like in His will. Like all of this was like provided. The doors were open. Like the right things happened at the right times. And the first year, honestly, was like pretty good. And then at the end of that first year, I actually lost the entire fellowship. And it was due to a lot of circumstances that were out of my control, but in a lot of ways, like the people around me and my advisor and like other people, like they saw it as my fault, and I saw it as my fault too, because I felt like I could have done something. Maybe I could have done a little bit better or done something else. To give you like an idea for people who are not in academia, like how big of an issue this was, like the fellowship is like a 3-year award, and its like total value is on the order of like well over like $120,000. So it's like a really big deal. It was really bad. And yeah, in the midst of that and in the midst of like everyday like little like grinding failures that happened in grad school, there was like a lot of opening and opportunity for me to become disappointed in myself and like see other people's disappointment in me. And it became like one of those like critical moments where like everything about like how you've grown in your faith up until that point is like tested. Yeah, I wasn't really sure how to recover from that. Like, I felt like my advisor, like, I don't know how he felt in the end, but I felt like he was like disappointed. He had hired me because I had this funding and then I lost it, so it was like a mess. But I remember one time somebody pulled me aside and prayed for me during that season, and it's kind of sad, but I don't remember who it was. But I remember that at the right time, they said this to me. This is going to be a season where you humble yourself, where you make yourself teachable, and where you show the quiet spirit that you were called to have. So I thought, okay, you know, in the midst of like all this mess, at least I can try to do that. So I tried to like humble myself and make myself teachable, not just before people, but before God, and like seek like what exactly it is that He wants me to learn from this, how I can grow from it, like how I can become more like Christ through the process and not become bitter as a result of like this happening. And so what that ended up looking like is I had to kind of like take like a shotgun approach and apply to like a lot of random things and like just like take a lot of shots in the dark. And that was also pretty hard, just like feeling like I had no idea what I was doing. But in the end, I did get like funding for the following year to tide me over, so it like bought me some time. And then like the funniest part is like right after that happened, I got everything that I had lost back as well. Also due to circumstances that were beyond my control. So yeah, I went through this crazy thing, and like not only did it work out financially, but also my advisor was really pleased, and through that like really dark period of probably like 3 or 4 months, we kind of like built this like strong foundation for our working relationship, and he was able to see like how I handled like failure of this magnitude. So in the midst of that, like there was this like implicit kind of trust that was built, although I did not intend it and I didn't know it at the time at all. And you know, I keep thinking back to that time, and I know that it's easy for me to say because in some sense like things worked out, but I do firmly believe that even if it had not worked out in that particular way, like God was still in it, and He was still so good and so faithful, and that testing of my character in the view of the many people who are around me, including the person that kind of determines a lot of the things about my future, like that was also like a blessing from Him, for them to be able to see like what God is doing in me in this way. And you know, like regaining all of that and one more, so instead of having 3 years, having 4 years of all of this thing that I did not deserve in the first place, like that is in itself like so much grace. And it's also provision, and I guess like if I were to think about the fact that I'm even able to stand before you like this tonight, if I'm able to even step back and think about the fact that I can be involved in this community, like serve here in whatever capacity, all these things, like it's all actually made possible because of this trial that I went through early on. I told you that we had built this working foundation with the person that I consider to be my boss during that like dark time. It actually kind of blossomed into a relationship in which he gave me the benefit of a doubt, and he like trusted me in busier seasons when I was serving, and he even allowed me to go on missions this year as a result of all of this happening. So yeah, I mean, if I were to testify about grad school, it would be that it is hard, and for those of you who have not already gotten in, I would say don't do it. If you do it, I would at least testify before you that even if you feel like God's not in it, He is. And even if you feel like it's not working out, you'd be surprised because God can do all things. And, you know, if I were to also think about how, you know, how much I need community and how much I need this community in particular in the midst of this season, it would be like in those moments when people pulled me aside and they prayed for me, or when people, you know, pulled me aside and encouraged me, or even in little things like in family group where people would say things and it would renew me in ways that even I don't understand. Yeah, it's like, this is like totally plagiarized, but I think it's pretty true in all seasons of life. Yeah, there was like this thing that somebody posted on Facebook a while ago, and it said, if you are not rooted in the goodness of God, you will lower your theology to match your pain. And I think about that in the context of the things that I went through too. You know, like in the times when my group was weakened, in the times when I couldn't fully and wholeheartedly say with my own mouth that God is like so good to me, there were people in this cloud of witnesses that declared it over me, and they reminded me of it. And they themselves in their testimony, in their lives, and they're running hard for the Lord, they also showed me that that is true. Yeah. So all that is to say, why do I need Jesus and why do I need Crossroads in my school life? Because Jesus is good, he's good to me, and you guys remind me all the time that he is good. Yeah, thank you.